All right, so this is CJ from Sogo Kaku, and I'm joined today by Deep Jewels fighter Anouk, who is still on the mend from an injury, but it sounds like things are getting better.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. I still can't practice with any partner because the strength in my left leg is still not enough compared to my right leg, and then you'll be like covering up in weird ways. So I'm not allowed to do that, but I feel like I can pretty much start training like normal. But I'm just enjoying myself with mitts and sandbags right now.
For those that don't know, what gym do you train at in Japan?
Cave.
Ah, Cave. So would that be the home of Ishiwatari?
Yes, Ishiwatari-san, and we've got Miyabi Shunsuke, and we've got Harako Tetsu, and we've got, it's not fighter from our gym, but Akira is training there as well.
Yeah, and Akira actually has a fight scheduled, I believe, the same day as Deep Jewels 38. He'll be fighting at the Pancrase show that day, I believe.
Yes, he's got a title match, doesn't he?
Yeah, because
Hey, okay.
apparently the Japanese MMA and combat sports gods hate us, and they put the K1 Yokohama show, the Pancrase show, the Deep
No,
show, and the Deep Jewel show all on the same day.
no.
Very interesting. So I know, let me think. So when Deep Jewels 38 was announced, what were your initial thoughts about the card?
No, I was amazed. I was like, this matchup, in my opinion, is like amazing. Like all the fighters are like all the fights I've ever wanted to see, basically. And like, yeah, just very, very excited and to finally see these fights that I've been anticipating.
Like, which are there any that stood out to you, especially?
Yeah, like specifically, I think all are amazing matchup. You've got like Mori Suda versus Murakami Aya. You've got like, well, I'm a fan of Hime, so I'm really excited to see Hime fight against Yuko Kiryu, who's been doing very well lately. Um, who else have we got? I think, yeah, Kate Lotus and Takabayashi. I think is also going to be a great fight, like great matchup. Um, TA versus Kuriyama. Yeah, pretty much all of them. I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deep Jewels has really hit its sweet spot recently in the past like year or so, because these events are, in my opinion, very well put, very smartly put together.
Mm,
So unlike, say, the K1 show that's happening the same day, which is probably going to have like 20 plus fights, Deep Jewels has put together, I believe, 7 fights
mm,
plus some additional amateur fights to open the show.
yeah.
But it kind of creates, in my opinion, like the perfect length of an MMA show,
Mm,
because people are going to go to this with like their kids. Deep Jewels has a lot of families there, but a lot of families, young people are going to go to this event. It starts at noon on Sunday. It's probably going to last 3.5 hours, and they're going to get 7 fights where all of the fighters involved have fought in Deep Jewels before. People know who they are. People know their stories. So it's kind of like this well-crafted event that I think a lot of fans are looking forward to.
yeah.
But what stood out to me the most, actually, though,
Mm.
was the main event is Aya Murakami versus Moedi Suda,
Ah, yeah.
both of whom are relatively new fighters. I mean, they've both started fighting within the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows to me that Deep Jewels, they're always in the process of creating the next stars, creating the next stars who are going to be the new faces of the promotion. And so it looks to me that this tells me that they're looking to one of these two to kind of become one of the new stars of the promotion, because they have to fight the thing that like their stars most of the time graduate to rising, or sometimes they go to other promotions. So they're always making the next generation, always making them. And so
Mm.
it's interesting to me that this is like the pair that they created to become the new faces of the promotion.
Mhm. That's interesting that you say that. Like I've actually never really thought about it that way, but you're right because yeah, that like for most Japanese MMA fighters, rising is like the end stage or like at least the higher goal, and then yeah, that means that if you're doing well, you won't be in deep for long. So yeah, that would totally make sense. Yeah.
Well, Deep does seem to have a very good relationship with Rising, where sometimes the Deep fighters come back down and they fight it deep. They fight at both shows, but let's be honest, a lot of these fighters, their goals are to fight on the biggest stage possible.
Mm.
So, and it's interesting to me. Let's just talk about that main event now that we're there. Notably, this is a rematch. Both of them fought each other in their pro debuts.
Yeah.
And notably, it's the only time Aya Murakami hasn't finished her opponent.
Ah.
Also, that first fight was Aya Murakami's only fight not at microweight.
All right. What weight did they fight at?
This fight is going to be at atom weight.
Oh wait, they're gonna fight at atom weight this time.
And they fought at atom weight the first time.
Ah, okay, yeah, you're right because Suda is fighting at like 49-ish, right? Yeah.
Right now, I know that Saudi Oshima said in an interview that Moedi Suda could easily make microweight, but
Hmm.
Moedi Suda is bigger than Aya Murakami. Aya Murakami, have you ever met her?
Yeah, I have met her, yeah. She's pretty
She
tiny.
she is a tiny person.
Yeah,
Like at microweight, it looks like she's not really cutting weight to make microweight.
yeah.
And for those who don't know, microweight, I believe, is 97 pounds.
I'm
So
not
I
sure
mean,
the pounds, but I think it's like 44 kilograms or something.
mhm, mhm.
That would be my weight without any fat.
Yeah,
Like me minus
yeah,
all the fat that I have.
that would be me in maybe third grade. I don't know. I don't know. So no, but she's a very tiny person, and I think one factor going into this fight is that Moedi Suda has, they both fought each other in the pro debuts. Who has gotten better?
Hmm.
Because Moedi Suda notably lost her first two fights and then went on this tear where she just started submitting everybody with arm bars, including Hikaru Aono, who's a very high level wrestler and grappler herself. And Moedi Suda, her father is an MMA fighter who has his own Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gym. And she played like Hime. She also kind of comes from a basketball background. So she had that athleticism. And now she's been focusing it on Jiu Jitsu.
Hmm.
But on the other side of the equation, you have Aya Murakami, who is in Japanese history for a woman, she received her Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt faster than anybody ever has.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you get this Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt kind of whiz against this other young up and comer athletic girl who is also a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu based fighter.
Hmm.
So what does that mean? Does this become an awkward kickboxing match? Does this turn into like some jiu-jitsu chess match? Well, how do you think it turns out?
I mean, I watched the like the trailers for the fights as well. And Aya Murakami, she said like I would like to show some of my boxing. So, which is interesting because basically both of them are jiu-jitsu fighters. They like to submit their opponents, but then of course if that's both of their strong points, then probably one of them is going to opt for like, well, I guess I mean I'm better at the boxing than the jiu-jitsu than compared to her. And I know that Morisuda says she's a jiu-jitsu fighter and she wants to submit her opponent. I think that's interesting because if I watch their fights, I would say actually that like maybe Morisuda is the better fighter because she has the reach as well, or the better striker because she has the reach. Jiu-jitsu wise, I mean, I would say Murakami probably has the advantage and the experience and everything. Um, so I don't know, like before I watched the fight, I was gonna guess that probably Suda was gonna go more, more striker and then take down and then, pound kind of ish. But then she said she was gonna submit her opponent, so I guess maybe that means that she's gonna try and tackle and Murakami's gonna try and defend the tackles. the takedowns, but I can't really imagine that. It's hard for me to picture a fight like that. So I'm pretty excited to see what's going to actually happen once the fight starts.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. It's hard for me to imagine Murakami striking
Yeah.
because in the past, when she tries to strike, she looks incredibly awkward while she's doing it.
Yeah, right?
And Moeri Suda may not be a striker, but she is athletic,
Yeah.
and especially in her fight with Edu Takabayashi,
Mm,
she's willing to throw some strikes to get to the takedown.
mm,
Moeri Suda is very much, in my opinion, like a pressure fighter. She's
mm,
always coming at you, always coming at you. And
mm.
once the grappling starts, if she doesn't get this submission, she's going for another submission. She's going for another submission until she finally gets it. And so if I was her, I would almost try to test out the striking because she does have, I think, a 3-inch reach advantage
Mm.
and see how that goes. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know going into this fight, Moeri Suda is now being sponsored by a manga that is about a girl, like it's a fictional story about a female MMA fighter.
Really?
So
That's
yeah, Moeri Suda's got an interesting sponsor. And I know that Murakami, I mean, we're going to see some interesting cosplay when she comes out. So it should be an interesting fight between them. They're both such high level grapplers. I'd love to see them at least grapple a little bit.
yeah.
So here's another question I have about this matchup for you. So Moeri Suda is she's very good with arm bars from the bottom. She's kind of relentless with that. But against Saudi Oshima, I guess the English expression would be that Saudi Oshima kind of big sistered her,
Mm,
where she's just like, oh, you're my younger sister. I'm going to throw you down. You're not going to stop me. And I'm going to rip your arm off.
mm,
And Moetti looked like she had no answer for that.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying Aya Murakami is nowhere near as physically strong as Saudi Oshima.
No.
Saudi Oshima may be small, but she is a little muscle, like she's ripped, and she's been doing judo for 24 years.
Mm,
Do you think? And then I believe afterwards, Oshima kind of made a comment. Was it either Oshima or Izawa made a comment about Moetti Suda that technically she's gifted, but her body, she hasn't gotten the muscle of like a woman yet.
I'm not aware of that comment. So
I
I'm
think
not
it might
sure.
have been Izawa because Izawa's trained with her,
Ah,
but I believe that was it. But it kind of made sense to me. She still kind of has like that schoolgirl body where she's not, I mean, look at Oshima in comparison. Oshima's ripped.
oh,
So do you think that the physicality might play a role in this?
I mean, I think it will, but I think it will be in Morty's Suda's advantage.
Hmm.
Because I think even though she does, her body is most likely still developing. I mean, she does obviously have muscles. She's obviously strong, as you can see in her fights. And it's hard for me to picture because I mean they're going to be the same weight at the fight, so that means that there can't be such like a big. I mean, there's not going to be a big physical difference because they should be the same weight when they're fighting. But just looking at them in the fights that they have fought, I mean, I just can't imagine Aya Murakami physically overpowering Mori Suda. So maybe in that sense, then the striking would make sense because I think if they're trying to wrestle, I think it's going to be hard for Murakami to take her down physically.
Right. So now Murakami has shown in the past that she's kind of willing to do whatever it takes to get a fight to the ground, which I love. I love when a jiu-jitsu fighter is like, I'll pull guard. I'll try to go for a guillotine. I will Imanari roll. I will do whatever it takes to get this fight to the ground. I don't care if I'm on the bottom. If it hits the ground, I'm going to win. And that's kind of what I expect her to do in this. If she tries to box, I don't think that'd be that smart of a move, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. So let's go to another fight. Now, I know that you're a fan of Hime,
Yes.
who I already briefly mentioned, and she is fighting Yuko Kiryu. So what are your thoughts on this fight?
This is maybe the one fight that I'm not specifically like, this is an amazing matchup, because I mean, the previous fight, Aya Murakami, she's both jujitsu, basically, how to say, talents fighting each other, which I think is a great matchup. This fight, I don't think was specifically like, oh, these two should be fighting. But I guess it makes sense because they're both up and coming. And yeah, I mean, Yuko Kiryu, I mean, I'm not sure about, I'm not so aware of her history. I mean, I've only been watching Deep Jewels for the past couple of years, so I've only seen like her recent fights, and she seems strong. Her pounds, I mean, the sound of it sounds like it must hurt when you get hit by it. But I think all of the fights, I mean, she has not like been like dominating any fights yet. Yuko Kiryu has, like, she's been winning by like split decision for like Tomimatsu Emi. So, and I mean, I think, I mean, Hime is the same. I think she mostly won by ref, or like the point by points.
Yeah.
But I think she has definitely been dominating more, which is also what I'm going to be expecting for this fight, because Yuko Kiryu is skilled, but I think Hime is going to be a bit next level as far as the striking is concerned. So I'm sure Yuko Kiryu could be beating Hime with the striking. And also in, what was it? I think it was the Saori Oshima fight that Hime really showed that she does have that takedown defense. So if she can pull that off again, I think I don't really see any. I don't really see her losing, but you know, anything can happen. So I'm really excited about this fight as well.
I'm excited for it too, because Hime is kind of like this unlikely contender that's appeared, because it's very interesting. She kind of has that semi-professional basketball background that she comes from, clearly has great footwork and is very athletic. And I kind of count the Saori Oshima fight as an anomaly, because Saori Oshima had COVID like right before the fight, and Saori Oshima shouldn't be fighting at atomweight, in my opinion, because she's way too tiny. And but not to take away from Hime, that fight did show that Hime can be a very good counter puncher.
Yeah.
So that was very impressive to me. Now, in the fight before that, when she fought Miki Matono, who's more her size, because let's be clear, Hime is coming not from atomweight. She worked her way down to atomweight. It's like Deep Jewels put a memo out, which they literally told Miki Matono at a press conference, you need to fight at atomweight. We don't have other divisions really. Strawweight, we don't really have any fighters at. So all these fighters are dropping down. You notice Kate Lotus, Miki Matono, Hime. They all, I mean, Hime started at 125, and now she's fighting at 105. And so they're all dropping down. And so,
Adami, she started at like, what was it, 60 kilograms, and now she's down to like straw weight all of a sudden. I'm like,
yeah, because she fought Kate Lotus and them up there. But now the one that we'll get to that when it happens, but Kate Lotus's cut is impressive to me. But Hime, in her fight against Miki Matono, who's more her size, did get taken down. But she even though she lost that fight, she reacted to getting taken down well, and looked like she was always working to get back to her feet. So I was impressed by that, because I consider Miki Matono a very good fighter. And so that was very impressive to me. Even in her loss, she looked like she was improving. She seems to be improving each fight.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of brought up a good point that Yuko Kiryu's results recently, I almost feel like Deep Jewels is like wants her to lose, because they're like putting her against people they like, and she keeps like barely beating them. So, but I would almost describe her recently as like a grinder. She seems to be winning her fights based off stamina.
That's true.
Where it's like, especially in the Manhoof fight, it was like they both smashed against each other, and she just never stopped it, and eventually kind of wore Manhoof down. Like there was never a chance where she was going to finish the fight, but it was this very gritty, very in your face, I'm always going to be here, always hitting you, always trying to hurt you kind of fight style. And so it'll be interesting to see how Hime reacts to that. Because in the Oshima fight, she reacted to an aggressive fighter by just counterpunching them. But if Kiryu can actually force her against the cage and kind of do that dirty fighting style that she likes to do, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I kind of favor Hime going into this, but I feel like Kiryu's been competing she has a lot of experience, I think over 20 fights. And so that can't be discounted going into this either. So next, we have Mizuki Furuse versus Momoko Yamazaki, who came to temporary fame in Japan when she was involved with a fight with a drunk guy outside of a convenience store, and it was in the newspapers.
Yep. No, this is, I feel like this is kind of, okay, it's going to be really rude of me to say this, but I kind of feel like this is the Yankee matchup. Like,
No, I agree 100%. Momoko Yamazaki is clearly a Yankee. They even like advertise her as the former Yankee. And for those that don't know, Yankees are like essentially, I mean, there's male versions too, but when I think of Yankee, I think of like a girl thug who hangs outside of a convenience store in kind of like a squat pose, smoking a cigarette. And they usually have like tans and like loud makeup and stuff, right?
yeah. I guess Yankees used for both genders, but it's basically just like, yeah, I would say thug is maybe the good word. Just young people getting into trouble.
If people haven't seen it, there's a movie that was incredibly popular like 20 years ago called Kamikaze Girls.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that has like a whole Yankee subplot in it.
Yep.
So if you guys want to check it out, there's a good example.
I totally forgot about that, but that's on point. Yeah.
That movie, the girl that plays the main Yankee is Koike, who was a commentator for Pride, who married a professional wrestler.
Okay. So it's all connected.
It's all connected. It all comes back to MMA. But yeah, so I mean, let's be frank here. Mizuki Furuse has like a crazy record. And she clearly prefers, I think most of her wins come from grappling, even though I think she likes to strike. But I think she normally wins when they put her against someone that doesn't have good grappling and she just submits them.
I mean, to be honest, again, like for Furuse, I've only seen her recent fights and she's been on a hiatus for a while. So I'm not sure what her style was before. And I think her recent fights have been points, hasn't it? Haven't they?
Let me see. Mizuki Furuse did take a break, but it was very brief. She made it sound like she's gonna take a long break, but she essentially took a break, got pregnant, had a kid, and came back immediately. And she's coming off of a rear naked choke win over Rena Kobayashi.
Oh, okay.
And then we have 3 straight losses. So she notably got, for those that don't know, Mizuki Furuse got popular because she was part of an Abima TV show where they're trying to find the next big star. And famous fighters nominated fighters to be part of the tournament. I believe she was nominated by Shinya Aoki to be part of this tournament. And the tournament included some popular people. Notably, it included Mio from Shoot Boxing, who was, I believe, nominated by Rumina Sato. She was the famous training partner of Rena, and she has since returned to K1 and is now doing kickboxing. But it most famously included Itsuki Hirata, who won the tournament, beat Mizuki Furuse in the finals, and that is how she got her contract. The winner got a contract to join one championship. So that is how Itsuki Hirata got there. But Mizuki Furuse became quite popular on the show because people thought she was cute and she cried a lot. Japanese people love it when people cry, and she cried. So they love her. But her results since then, like Deep kind of ran her through the ringer. They just kept giving her fights after another, after another, after another. And she has very mixed results. And I would blame part of that on the fact that, like Aya Murakami, Mizuki Furuse is tiny. And they kept putting her in atomweight fights. And in Rising, when she fought Kana Asakura just big sistered her. Kana Asakura is just like, oh, I'm going to take you down and TKO you in like 45 seconds. Or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So she is very tiny, but she does seem to have like a close relationship with the deep brass. And she
Mm.
has a fan base, so I could see her coming back for a while. And her husband is also notably a deep fighter. But yeah, I just don't see her ever like making a title run or anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm. No, I
But
think I totally agree.
her opponent, let's not, I mean, her opponent isn't the most technical fighter of all time. But I will say that her last fight with Kyoko Chibisai was a lot of fun.
Mm.
I thought it was, there's something hilarious about watching two microweights just brawl. And they went at it. I mean, she was throwing knees, she was throwing elbows, she went at it for the entire fight. And kind of like Mizuki Furuse, Momoko has a lot of fans. And you'll see her like t-shirt that I assume she designed. A lot of people will be wearing it at the event. So these are two popular fighters. They have their own fan bases. And it's kind of like this clash where I think Mizuki will probably try to be more technical, where Momoko is just going to like, I'm going to run at you like a Yankee and try to punch and knee you. But I guess my final thought would be I think Mizuki has more finishing power. She's shown she can submit people, which I don't think Momoko's ever submitted anybody. I mean, she might have, but none of it doesn't come to mind. So yeah, she's never, oh, let me see. Yeah, she's never finished anyone, only decisions. But I think it should be a fun fight. While not the most technical fight, I think the fans will like it.
Both these fighters, at the very least, have a lot of passion going into the fight. Probably be giving it their all, and we might be expecting another brawl kind of thing. But yeah, like you said, I think probably if there's going to be a finish, it's going to be, or at least if there's going to be like a grappling finish, it's going to be probably Furuse.
Yeah, it'll be fun too because I mean, events like this need a brawl. It's always fun. I like you need a variety of fights at these events. Not every fight needs to be some technical jiu-jitsu chess match. You can throw a brawl in there and get the fans back on their feet. So I think it should be a fun fight because neither one of these fighters is going to hold anything back. Say what you will about their technical skills. But okay, let's move on to a fight that I'm actually pretty interested in. Kate Lotus versus Edu Takabayashi. Your your thoughts?
Striker versus striker, and how to say, highly expected fighter versus highly expected fighter. So both of them are really like, I feel like they're being made, they've been trying to make them into stars, which has worked, obviously. And both have been put against very strong opponents lately and have been losing, even though everyone was kind of really had high hopes for them. So I think this is going to be an amazing fight because I mean both of them have talent, obviously, and just both of them are great strikers. So I'm just excited to see how these two popular fighters will do against each other. This is a bit. I mean, in my head, like the type of fighter that Takabayashi is kind of like the same type of fighter that Kate Lotus is, although Kate Lotus probably has the better grappling. But yeah, I'm really excited for this fight.
Were you surprised that Kate Lotus is getting down to this weight?
Yes, surprise, because actually yes, but after she got down to strawweight, I wasn't like coming from strawweight. I wasn't surprised that she went down to atomweight from strawweight, but I was surprised that she went down to atomweight in the first place. Because I think I mentioned this in the last time we talked, but when she fought Hime, she fought at like she used to fight at flyweight. Kate Lotus did. She went down to 54 for the Hime fight, and then she mentioned that like her stamina was just running out all the time, and she just didn't feel good fighting at this weight. So I like never expected her to even drop it below 54 because I think she went up to flyweight for another fight and then went down again. And then I think you mentioned that because she was training so much at K-Clan, she just naturally dropped the weight. But I mean, when I watched her strawweight fight, she was thin. I mean, she's almost the same height as me. I think, but she has all this muscle, right? Like she's got the muscle, but then like her waist is like tiny. So I'm like, I don't know how she's gonna look at like, was it
I
49
thought,
fighting at?
yeah, they're fighting at 49.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I mean, if she feels good fighting there, then I mean, by all means, she should go ahead. But yeah, I mean,
Part of me thinks that she's trying to force herself to be an atom weight because that's where all the opportunities are. Deep probably told her, if you want to fight on a big show like Rising, atom weight is the only women's division they have. So you need to try to get down to atom weight. And plus, the strawweight division in Japan, as soon as Rising added atom weight, the strawweight division completely dried up in Japan.
yeah.
I mean, there's almost no fighters left at strawweight except like Emi Fujino and Karen at Pancrase. So that's about it, to be honest. And so I'm also very surprised. I think she's going to look tiny. I know that she had excess muscle because she was a bodybuilder before this. She was kind of like a bodybuilder slash fitness model. So I could see that she had some excess muscle maybe. But when I saw her at the last show, she looked skinny.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know it's only 3 more kilos, but still, when you're already that small, an additional 3 kilos is a big deal. And I kind of laughed when I saw this matchup. I had like this cynical laugh, if I may say, because Kate Lotus has had a rough time of it. Kate Lotus does not come from a martial arts background, but I will give her all the credit in the world. She is training very hard and she's doing what it takes to become a good fighter. And so then Deep gives her this winnable match. So first off, let's just say this. She fought on a Deep show. And if a woman fights on a Deep show, that means that Deep likes you because they don't really have a lot of women's show on their pure Deep shows. And that also means you can move tickets. So she's obviously popular. She's obviously selling a lot of tickets.
Mhm.
They put her against Arami, who is kind of like Deep's punching bag. Deep Arami's who they kind of Arami has fought probably, I think, in like 4 weight divisions. She fights all over the place. She fights whoever Deep and Deep Jewels want her to fight. And it's usually because Deep and Deep Jewels want somebody else to win. Like they had Miki Matono fight her. They have people fight her to kind of look good. Arami is this incredibly tough, incredibly gritty fighter that never stops coming forward. And that proved to kind of be Kate Lotus's demise because Kate Lotus, up till now at least, has appeared to have some sort of stamina problem where she gets very tired as the fight goes on. And Arami does not get tired and keeps coming forward. So that is kind of what happened in the last fight. But then what my cynical laugh comes because of this. They go from Arami to Edu Takabayashi, who I consider to be a much better fighter than Arami. And it's like, oh, so Lotus loses to Arami. So we're going to give her a much better fighter to fight. The only thought process I have is that while Edu Takabayashi is a very good striker, in my opinion, Kate Lotus does seem to be trying to grapple recently. And maybe they're thinking that Kate Lotus will try to use her grappling to kind of negate Edu Takabayashi's striking. Or maybe they're hoping it turns into a brawl. I don't know what their plan is, but if it turns into a striking match, I mean, Edu Takabayashi, when I first saw her fight, her striking is clean. She throws in combos. She is aggressive. She throws with power. So if it turns into a striking brawl, I kind of favor Edu in the striking.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, I see a lot of possibilities for this match as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Kate Lotus's grappling is pretty good, probably, but
Mhm.
somehow, like this is how I see her recent fights, but I feel like somehow there's always been like one big, like one thing that she can't get right, and that's why she's losing the fight. So against I can't quite specifically
Mika?
what it was against her, like the previous fights, but like for instance the Arami fight, she just her takedown defense, like she was just throwing kicks even though she's been taken down, at the timing of her kicks all this time. So like you'd think maybe after being taken down 3 times when you throw a kick, you'd kind of be like, oh, maybe I should take more, have more distance when I'm kicking, or maybe just not kick at all because she's gonna take me down. But that just, I mean, of course, during a fight, it's very hard to maybe process and think about that. But like, there's always been this one thing where I'm like, she has the skill, in my opinion. She definitely has the striking. Also against Iru Takabayashi, I think she can do well because Iru Takabayashi also, like, she was fighting against, you know, Otoha, who is maybe not, I think Kate Lotus is better of a striker than Otoha, in my opinion. But Otoha,
I disagree, but I disagree.
Really? Okay. I mean,
I think Kate Lotus is a good puncher. I think Otoa is a more, I think Otoa is the better striker. The only problem that's different between her and Kate Lotus is Otoa is still quite young. I believe she's 17 or 18 years old, and she has zero power behind her strikes. But once I think she gets power behind her strikes, she'll be a much better fighter. But that's segue. Sorry.
It's no, I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. I mean, Kate Lotus, she's very aggressive.
Yeah.
So, which also makes her striking seem much more scary, I guess, because she's very aggressive. So it seems, but maybe it's not as technical. It's hard for me to tell when looking at the fights. But in my opinion, her striking looks great. So even though, I mean, I think even against Iru Takabayashi, she could do great. But I think Iru Takabayashi definitely has the speed. She's got the speed. She's got the accuracy. And I think Kate Lotus is kind of more like in that sense, more of a brawler striker.
I agree 100%. I agree.
Probably move forward and try to like aggressively punch, but then if Iru Takabayashi does well, she'll just keep her distance and then move in with her karate background-ish strikes. And yeah, but I think for definitely Kate Lotus would probably go for the takedown, and I'm really interested to see how Iru Takabayashi has been improving on the ground, because she hasn't been doing so well in her last fights. So that's just something I'm looking
That's a
forward
good point you bring up, because I agree with most of what you said. I believe Kate Lotus can best be described as a brawler who has decent power in her punches. Iru Takabayashi, also kind of a brawler, but more of like a technical brawler, if that makes sense. They're both very aggressive. Now, as you said, Kate Lotus isn't, as you mentioned about the training, Kate Lotus claims she's billed as training in Kobe. She actually trains in Tokyo with Seika Izawa and Kate Reina and Ushiku at K-Clan. Edu trains in the middle of nowhere at a gym that I've never heard of outside of herself. So I'm also very interested. I believe it's called Scorpion. But I'm also very interested to see what improvements she's made to her grappling, because that is the glaring weakness she has. And if she can overcome that, she can become the next Kana Asakura type, because Rising's obsessed with the whole like still a schoolgirl angle for some reason. And so they tried it with Sakura, but Sakura went crazy and it's no longer around. And so maybe Edu can take the spot. But this fight has potential to be a very action-packed striking match, but I think it also has potential to become this weird slogging clinch fest against the cage. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens.
I'm not looking forward to a clinch fest, but it might well turn out that way. We'll see. But
I'm speaking of Kate Lotus. So Kate Lotus is kind of like the new, let's just not beat on the bush. She's like the cute, friendly fighter that talks to the fans after the events. And she's quite popular, becoming like a face for the promotion. In the next fight, we have Mika Nagano, who used to be that person. And she is fighting Tomoko Inoue. Now, for those who don't know, Mika Nagano, unlike Kate Lotus, came from a very high-level wrestling background. In Japan, women's wrestling is incredibly popular, thanks primarily to the Yamamoto sisters. But she went to a wrestling college. I believe she finished 4th in the nation during one of the national tournaments. Mika Nagano is a very high level wrestler, but I mean, she's quite old now. She's in her late 30s or 40s. How old is Mika? Let me check.
Yeah, late 30s or 40s. I'm not sure of the exact.
Double check. She's 38. Does that make sense? She's 38 years old. She has several children now. But during her heyday, she was like the face of Jules. She and Saudi Ishioka were the face of Jules. Her way she wins is she takes you down and gets an armbar. Almost all of her finishes are armbar finishes. And she always had this problem where she could never win the big fight. She was always better than the lower half of the division. She could beat some of the better people, but she was never able to win a championship. And that's kind of her problem. And I think she said that was one of the reasons she initially retired. Plus, she got married and had kids, but now she's back. And I love it because it seems like she's fighting for herself now. She doesn't have like the pressure, because some of these fighters put all this pressure on themselves. Like you'll hear Rena talk about it, or Kai Asakura talk about it. Like it's up to me to make MMA popular. Or Rena was like, I'm the reason women's MMA is in rising. So it's like my duty to win and keep making it popular. And I feel like Mika Nagano had that with Jules, where it's like, I have to carry this promotion on my shoulders. I have to make it popular. Before Jules, there was Smack Girl. Smack Girl died. There's Valkyrie. Valkyrie died. All women's promotions have failed. It is up to me to make this promotion like keep going. And I'm just happy because it seems like all of that is gone. She's now saying like, oh, I'm just fighting for me. I'm fighting one fight at a time. If I feel good, I'll take a fight. If I don't feel good, I'm not going to take a fight. And it's just kind of nice to see a fighter get to enjoy the end of their career, fighting the promotion that they helped build, and just kind of taking it a step at a time, enjoying the moment. And she's coming off of a huge win. I don't think anyone, I mean, she came off like a 2 or 3 year absence to fight Kate Lotus. And I think someone like the skeptics were like, oh, they're just looking for Kate Lotus, to someone with a name value for Kate Lotus to beat, to help elevate, to put Kate Lotus over. But then Mika came out of nowhere and got the front choke submission, something she's never done before. So it's kind of fun to see that she's still evolving. And then they have her fighting Tomoko Inoue, who is 0-3, but I don't know her backstory. It seems like she has a lot of fans. So I'm kind of curious where that comes from. And she looks like she's pretty tall.
Yeah, she's like 170. I think she's like the tallest strawweight fighter. I think
Yeah, like she's very, whenever she fights, she looks like a giant in there.
yeah, she's taller than me. So I'm pretty sure, I think she was 170 or 172 centimeters.
I just looked at, she's 173.
Oh, okay, yeah. So she's tall. And then she's fighting at strawweight usually. I mean, I think this fight's gonna be strawweight, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so she's fighting at strawweight. I think Miki Nagano is also pretty lanky, right? I don't know her height, but she must be tall because she looks very skinny.
Oh, Mika Nagano is let me think. She is 5'3", so she's 161. So there's a 12 centimeter difference. But Mika Nagano is by no stretch of the imagination a small person. I mean, she's small, but for a fighter, for strawweight, also is like a fitness junkie. So she's always doing personal training stuff on her YouTube channel and her blog. So yeah, I don't think she could. I think these are two people that belong in strawweight, if that makes sense.
Like in my head, like Miki Nagano is also like kind of like tall, skinny kind of fighter, which is why I thought this matchup was also really interesting because Tomoko Inoue is also like, I mean, she's like, her arms are just like, I don't know, she's long arms and legs. And I think both, if anything, I mean, Tomoko Inoue, I think is a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So she's pretty good on the ground. When she fought Iro Takabayashi, she went for striking, obviously, first, because that's where her, she has the reach advantage. And then in the final round, she realized, like, hey, I should have just gone grappling, but that's when it was already too late. Yeah. So I think I'm not sure about Miki Nagano because, like I say, like I'm not familiar with her past career so much. But is she like a good striker?
No,
or, no,
she's not.
in that case, I think this is a very interesting matchup because I think also Tomoko Inoue, I mean, she has the reach, but I don't think she's like a striker. She would like to go for the jujutsu part of things, and Miki Nagano probably obviously wants to get a takedown and do her wrestling. I mean,
That's why the Kate Lotus fight made no sense to me.
hmm.
Why did Kate Lotus choose to grapple with Mika Nagano, who that's clearly what she wants to do?
Yeah. I mean, she did well though. She
Yeah.
chose to grapple, but that went like exceeded my expectation because like I thought she's not going to make it against a wrestler, but
Yeah.
I mean she didn't in the end. But
yeah. Back to your making one big mistake each fight. That was that one moment.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So it'll be interesting because I know that Tomoko's 0-3.
Yeah, I think she has a brown belt actually.
Oh, she has a brown belt now. Okay, and so if Mika takes her down, that's probably kind of what Tomoko wants to happen to get to the ground. So that could be a fun fight. But either way, it should be interesting because it's just always fun to see Mika in the cage. We never know when her last fight's going to be. So this might be it, might not. If she wins, keeps going, it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next fight. So we have, yes, this one, speaking of brawls, this should probably be a brawling-esque fight. We have Aoi Kuriyama versus Taymurayama. Very similar last names.
So, now you mention it.
So we have the one from AACC and we have the one from Smoker's Gym in Osaka. So how do you think this is going to go?
This is definitely going to be a striking, just two fighters going at it, because I think that's both of their kind of like styles. They're both not necessarily grapplers, so and like they both have this kind of tough look to them, right? They're both like, so TA, she has like the military background and she's making that into her selling point. And then you've got Aoi Kuriyama, who has like tattoos all over her and is like obviously, like the way she's speaking also is kind of, she's from Osaka, so she's kind of like the cool girl from Osaka. So this is really interesting.
She very clearly trains with Hagiwara. Let's just put it that way.
Oh. I think this is really going to be an interesting fight. I think this is going to be some powerful striking, grappling, striking.
Yeah, so Aoi is notably coming off of a pancrase fight against Nori Pravjara, where it was kind of a weirdly scored fight. By all accounts, I was there as well. Aoi Kuriyama beat the shit out of Nori Pravjara. I think she dropped her 3 times in the first round. But then she kind of got tired, so the fight ended up being a draw. But I think a 3 knockdowns in one round warrants a 10-8. Call me crazy. But so it's kind of a weird result. But Aoi Kuriyama had those weight issues back in the tournament, but is clearly the favorite. She's clearly the deep Jules Brass likes her. It's obvious why. She brings a lot of fans to her fights, and they seemingly come from Osaka, and they stick out like a sore thumb because they all are dressed like Hagiwara in the crowd. They all look like they're auditioning for a Snoop Dogg music video. So you can experience, you can like, oh, there's her fan section. You can see them almost immediately. Now I'm going to make a bold prediction for this fight. I think Taya trains at AACC, a very highly respected gym, with a bunch of grapplers. And Aoi Kuriyama's glaring weakness is her grappling. And I would not be surprised if Taya tried to get this fight to the ground and go for the TKO stoppage. I think that's like her best route to try to finish it, because I don't think she's at the point where I'd be comfortable if I was her, like shooting out for an armbar or a choke or something. But if she can get on top and throw some good blows, there's a chance that the ref might come in and stop it. Because I think in the Sugiyama fight, especially, Taya kind of showed she's kind of like a turtle. Once you have her on her back, she kind of has a hard time getting up from that position. So I wouldn't be surprised if Taya somehow tries to get it to the ground.
Actually, now that you mention it, she does. I think her debut, it was her debut. She has an armbar finish against uh what's her name? Marina. Kumagai Marina.
Oh, okay. Well,
So she does have the grappling, but I think in my impression that was largely also due to the really accurate instructions from her second,
yeah,
because she was literally just step by step following what her second did, and I think just Kumagai Marina didn't defend properly and she got the armbar.
yeah,
So yeah, she does have grappling, but that's interesting. Like that would be interesting to see.
yeah. I could see her doing that. Now that I pulled up Tia's record, can we just comment on the fact that her career progression is nuts? So she's fought Marina Kumagai,
Yeah,
who's not the best.
yeah,
She fought Pochan Z, who's kind of like a gimmick, I would say, is kind of her angle. And then immediately after that, King Reina,
yeah.
who, gimmick aside, King Reina is a fighter. And King Reina sucker punched the hell out of her when the bell rang to start the fight and gave her no chance. And then you go from losing to King Reina to fighting Rin Nakai, who is she is probably the best Japanese fighter above strawweight, clearly in Japan.
Mm.
And that was just a murder. Like that was an insane match because I know she got finished in the second round, but she would have lost in the first. But I believe Nakai locked the armbar on as the round ended. And
Mm.
so it's nice to see her fighting Kuriyama, who I'd say is more her level of opponent, return back to stop. Like it's kind of weird. Her first fights were every fight she's been in, it's kind of been a mismatch. It's like she's clearly going to smash her opponent, or her opponent's clearly going to smash her. It's nice to see her in a fight where you don't know what's going to happen. I think it'll be good for her development. I know that she retired from the military to specifically pursue this MMA career. And so I know she's taking it very seriously. And she is a big girl. I've met her several times and not highlight, but like thick, very a lot of muscle, very strong. Aori Kuriyama is also very big in that way. And this could be a brawl. I'm making a prediction though. Tia goes for the takedown. I can just hear Abe yelling for it. All right, let's go to the final fight on the card. We have Kyoka Chibasai versus Kimika Jaga. Kyoka Chibasai is notably the smallest fighter in Deep Jewel's history, hails from Niigata Prefecture, where I used to live. So as a result, she has a soft place in my heart. And she is fighting Kimika Jaka, who is 1-0, who trains at a gym that is very close to where I live. I believe she trains at Sonic Squad, which is where Seki, Rising Fighter Seki trains. It is where Naoki Inoue trains when he's in Japan. So it's a solid gym in the Yokohama area with some high-level fighters there. It's kind of hard to measure her at this point because of those results. And Chibisai also hasn't won yet. But while Chibisai hasn't won, she's very tough. I'll give her some points. She's very tough and she's willing to go for it, make fights exciting. So this is kind of that fight where I can't really say anything because both fighters, just so much is unknown about them. You have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, I guess we're gonna form an impression on her from now on.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, not much to say.
as we said, Deep Jewels, the machine keeps going. Always looking for new talent, always producing, always producing. So that's what's great about these events, especially because, I mean, we're not going to talk about them, but they have these amateur fights on here as well. Always making the new generation. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, Deep Jewels was like a graveyard. It was just all these fighters that were fossils. And it just seems now they've hit this hot streak where they're just finding talent and they're fighting young talent. And I mean, when you're finding fighters, you don't want to find 35-year-olds. You want to find 17-year-olds. You want to find 18-year-olds. And that's who they're finding. It's great. They're giving these fighters time to develop in the ring, in the cage. It's working out well. And it's leading to fights like, I know the amateur fight everyone is looking forward to is Sarah versus Sarah.
Looking
No
forward to
last name. No last name build for either one. It's just Sarah versus Sarah. The only way I could differentiate them is I get the impression that Sarah is half Japanese, one of them.
Both are half Japanese. Did you know that?
What?
Both are half Japanese.
They're both half Japanese.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't know about the one Sarah, but the one who you would like look at and be like, you're half Japanese. I don't know if she is half Japanese. The other Sarah is half Japanese, half Filipino.
Oh my God. I just joke about this fight all the time because one of my beefs, I know that a lot of fighters in Deep Jewels or Jewels, Japanese people like to protect their identity. And so maybe they have like a ring name. She kind of fought under a fake name. Fighters have done that in the past. And so I understand that. But when you only have one name, it leads to the problem of it's like, how am I supposed to find out about Sarah, the most common name of one of the most common names of all time, who is now also fighting Sarah, who also has one of the most common names of all time? Just makes it, I don't know, just rubs me. I just feel like if you're gonna do the Madonna thing where you only have your first name, you really need to be like a Rena level fighter, like a Masato level fighter. Because like the assumption is I'm so famous, you hear my first name and you know exactly who you're talking about. And I think amateur is a little too quick for just the only first name, but yeah, it should be fun. Have you trained with any of the Sarahs?
Yes, I have a lot to say about this fight actually, because I mean,
I know nothing, so enlighten me.
Okay, so like the one Sarah who looks more foreign.
Let's before we get into this, let's find a way to differentiate them. So let me think.
I mean, I call the other Sara-chan because I used to train with her.
Do that. Call the one who spells her name with katakana, call her Sara-chan. And we'll call the other one who writes her name in Romaji, just call her Sarah.
Okay, so they've got Sarah with the H, right? That's Sara-chan.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Sarah with the H.
Oh, that's not the H? Damn it. Mine's backwards.
Yeah, because the other one is Sara with just S-A-R-A. Right?
Do that then. Sara-chan and Sara. And Sara-chan will be your training partner or your friend who I think is, you said, well, it's half Japanese, half Filipino?
Yes. So the more looking girl, I'm not sure what her nationality or her background is, but so Sarah. Yeah, let's just do that. I'll pronounce her name more English, like Sarah and Sarah. So Sarah, she has been doing pretty well in amateur. So she got a KO win in amateur, which is very, very rare. I mean, a KO win, I mean, it was stopped by the referee. Like she just like downed her opponent and the opponent got right up, but she got a KO win, which was impressive. And so her striking is obviously very good. She used to compete in Deep Jewels as an amateur kickboxer, so under kickboxing rules. She has fought several times, and then she announced last year-ish that she wanted to transfer to MMA, which is what she did. She won her first fight, and then she lost, I think, or she won her first 2 fights, and she lost 1 fight, and then this is her next fight, I think. So she's a good striker. And then we've got Sara-chan, who I used to train with at Cave until she quit. So I didn't train with her for very long. And Sara-chan is, I'm not sure how much I should say, because she is kind of I would say my friend, because we train together. So I don't want to give away too much about her. But
well, don't give away too much about her, but what type of fighter is she? Is she a grappler? Is she a striker?
I would not say a grappler. She's definitely a brawler, I would say. So I think she hasn't really found her style just yet, because in the last, like, she's strong. She's got power. Like when I train with her, we would I remember we sometimes would do like the boxing wrestling, and then just put on headgear, go all out with the punches, no kicks. And I received I think it was a right hook that hurt. That was one of the most painful punches I've ever had. I mean, because the guys don't punch me at full power, but I mean, she does have power. She's very, very strong. I think the technique is not yet, she doesn't, like I said, she hasn't found her style yet. So like last fight she was fighting against, I think, was it Machi or Mana, one of the two, like one of those up and coming strong amateur fighters who have, I can't remember which one it was, but I
I
think
think
it was
Mana is the
Machi.
one that trains with Rin Nakai.
I think she
Who's
fought Machi then.
Mana, I think, would be bigger. I think
Mm.
Mana is bigger, but it might be Machi, who I think is also fighting at this event.
All right.
Let me see.
No,
I think Mana might be too big. It must be Machi.
then it must be Machi, yeah, like because they kind of look like they've got the same haircut. So I
No, I
can't
look at the picture. They literally look very similar.
yeah, so like yeah, no, she fought Machi. And in that fight, like once they started, like after the gong went, she like moved like really, how to say, like really
Really spastic.
yeah, like spastically. I'm like, whoa, this is the first time I've seen her move like this. Like, is this a new style or something? But I think she's really just trying to figure it out. Yeah, so I think
You know where
definitely
she's
Sarah is the more has the better technique. But I think Sarachan has the power. So if she manages to get a good punch in, she might do very well. But I don't think either of them is a grappler, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think Sarah is probably going to be the better grappler. But then again, like Sarachan is very strong and she'll just power her way through if necessary. So I'm also looking forward to see how she's going to do.
Interesting. Do you know where Sara is training? Where Sarah-chan is training now?
Sarachan's now training, I think, at Triforce Akasaka. She was
attracted by the allure of the Asakura name drew her to Triforce.
Oh, by the way, did you know that she participated in this? I think Asakura Kai kind of did this YouTube kind of.
Wait, was she in Breaking Down?
Yes.
Oh my God. Everyone's okay. So for those that don't know, we talked about it on other podcasts. Breaking Down is Mikuru Asakura's fight thing on YouTube that is incredibly popular. So what it is there's all these auditions that are on YouTube, and people come on and appeal to Mikuru, like why they should be allowed to fight on the pay-per-view event. And these aren't fighters, they're like comedians, YouTubers, there was a porn star, just all sorts of people, and insanely popular. I'm saying the audition 2 days after they're uploaded on YouTube, they have over 5 million views. It is insanely popular, and Sakakibara is obsessed with it. And I think that's why he's doing the new Hawaii thing. The new Hawaii tryouts is kind of based off of Mikuru's, because Mikuru's show is insanely successful. Mikuru sold the pay-per-view himself for the event, had giant sponsors for it. I think it was kind of like Landmark, where you could go watch it live, but the tickets were like $10,000. And if you got in, you got caviar and champagne, and you got to sit front row and take a picture with Mikuru. So Mikuru's clearly created something that's quite popular. And you're saying she was on the show?
I think she was like she's been spamming it on her Instagram.
Yes.
So this is another thing. Sarah-chan, she's going to a school for like kind of like a talent school. So she's like,
oh, okay,
for becoming an idol, and she loves to sing. She's very good at it as well. And apparently, she said this on Breaking Down as well. Like her dream is to become a professional MMA fighter and then to enter on her, like, while her own song is being played. But Sarah-chan very, very much wants to be popular, I think that's, she just wants to be an idol in any way. Which is
going on Breaking Down is definitely a way to become popular. And she would not be the first fighter to do that. Hitomi Akano, legendary fighter who hailed from Jules as well, entered to her own music. Notice that she wrote and sang herself. It was quite good. So there is a precedent. So Sarah could achieve her goal and go in there. But when you first said that, I had like a flash. I had like an image of, because you know when Tyson Fury, the heavyweight champion boxer, when he wins, he sings in the ring. So maybe we could also get something like that. That's cool though. I like that backstory. Interesting. It reminds me of in Pancrase, their current strawweight champion, Karen, came from an idol group, a talent group. And so they didn't do singing, but she did like comedy. She would do like pro wrestling, kickboxing, did all sorts of different stuff. So that whole idol talent stuff is just fascinating to me, because that doesn't really exist outside of like Japan and Korea does it.
True, it does not really. I mean, then you have One Direction, who somehow became kind of famous as an idol kind of boy band.
I guess you're right. The best example for a Western audience would be like, it's kind of like a boy band.
Yeah.
But idols and talents always do like, they do like so much different stuff. It's like, I sing, I do this, I'm on variety shows, I do all sorts of stuff. So that's cool. It'd be interesting to see. Have you ever heard her sing? Is she any good?
Osara-chan?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. She like sings Adele, and then she's like,
Oh wow.
yeah, she's got some attitude in a good way, I guess.
Interesting.
So
Well, I didn't know anything this about her. I'm glad you told me. I'm glad we asked about this because I'm always interested to hear these, because it's the backstories that make the fights interesting, like knowing where the fighters come from, what their goals are. So it's very interesting. I may have seen her fight before, but I only can remember Sarah fighting. I believe I saw most of her amateur kickboxing matches and some of her amateur MMA fights. For some reason, she sticks out, and Saki sticks out as amateurs, so I've seen a lot of. Interesting. So, are there any other fights or any closing comments you'd like to make about the event?
just sad that I can't be there live, but very excited to see the fights afterwards on YouTube, and yeah, I just hope Hime is gonna win. Just want her to beat Izawa Seika. I just want anyone to beat Izawa Seika.
Oh, really? Why? What's the beef? What's the hatred for Izawa Seika?
No specific hatred.
Did she wrong you in some past life?
Not at all, not at all. I just like, she hasn't lost a single fight. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like, how to say, it's a weird way to say it, but it's kind of boring if she always wins. So like, if there's one strong person who always wins, you kind of want someone to beat them to see that, okay, they're human as well.
Kind of like the Mike Tyson effect. After you've seen 25 straight knockouts, maybe you'd like to see him get challenged a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I don't know. I'm not ready to see Izawa Seika lose just yet, because I feel like she's still climbing the pinnacle.
She is.
I'd like to see how high she can get.
I'm also a huge fan of Shio Park. Mm-hmm. She's amazing to watch, like so powerful, so passionate, like.
And she beat the living crap out of Kana Asakura in the last fight.
Yeah. I still believe, even though she lost that fight against Izawa Seika, I still think she definitely has the potential to beat pretty much anyone in the tournament. So I'm just really excited to see how far she gets specifically, but just in general, I'm just interested to see who's going to win. And also, you got the Yamazaki storyline going on with her losing her title and everything. So that's just, lots to it.
Very interesting. Plus, Yamazaki had the old rivalry with Shio Park's mentor, Ham Sohi.
Yeah.
So there's that whole angle to it as well. Great. I mean, September is going to be a packed month. Got a lot of action going on. But you guys can check out my stuff at sogo-kaku.com. All my social media, my YouTube stuff. I have the podcast with Bob Lujak. I have the podcast with Shu Hirata. So you can check that all out. And Anouk, where can people find you?
Yeah, I guess nowadays I'm mostly on Instagram, where you can find me as Phayafox, Phaiafox. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, but that's like years ago. I don't do anything on there. So yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on. It was always great to talk about the show.
Thanks for having me.
I learned some valuable information about Sarah versus Sarah, which makes me look forward to the match even more.
Yeah.